Next, we're going to cover understitching. Understitching is very important. Usually it's used to stitch down the seam allowance around an armhole, a neckline, a vent, and it's stitching the seam allowance on the inside without it showing through to the outside. So we're going to start with another 2 pieces of muslin that we're going to sew together. And actually, we don't need to cut anything. We can just go right ahead and sew. Let's sew a larger seam allowance of about 5/8 this time. Right. Just a regular straight stitch. Perfect. And then we are going to press that open. Always press open first, even if the seams are going to be, even if the seam is going to be pressed together. So we've got it nice and flat now. Now we're going to push one of our seam allowances to the other side and press again. On a garment, this side would be the outer side of the fabric that is showing, and this side would be the lining with both seam allowances pushed toward it. Now we're going to stitch on this side, which would be the lining, about 1/8 of an inch in, very, very close as we can get to the edge of that seam through both the fabric and both seam allowances. So we're just sewing as close as we can. And it's easier to see with this darker thread. We don't want to go over the seam, but 1/8 of an inch would be perfect. Just enough to hold that down, the seam allowance down on that side. Now we're going to press. And then this item, if it were a garment, would most likely be folded this way with one side showing no seam and no top stitching, and the other side with the top stitching. That's holding the seam in place. And again, that would be a neckline, an armhole, lots of different uses for understitching to make a seam nice and flat.